Welcome to today's deep dive into the hidden power of silence through the lens of Machiavelli and Stoic philosophy. In a world that constantly pushes us to speak louder, act faster, and assert ourselves at every turn, silence can often feel like a weakness. But what if the true power lies in restraint, in choosing when to speak and when to remain still? In this video, we'll explore how Machiavelli, often misunderstood as a cynic of power, actually saw silence as a strategic tool in leadership. We'll also uncover the Stoic philosophers, like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, who championed silence as a means of mastering the self and confronting life's challenges without being swept up in the chaos around us. The art of silence is not about avoiding confrontation or retreating from the world. It's about cultivating inner strength, clarity, and influence. Whether you're navigating high-stakes negotiations, managing relationships, or simply seeking peace amidst the noise, the power of silence has the potential to reshape how you move through life. So if you're ready to tap into this untapped power, sit back, relax, and let's dive into the wisdom of the ancients. Number 1, the quiet that commands. Imagine walking into a room and saying nothing, yet your presence shifts the tone. Imagine facing conflict without raising your voice, without scrambling for the right words, because your silence already says enough. Not silence from fear, but silence rooted in composure. That kind of stillness doesn't ask for attention, it commands it. In a world addicted to noise, silence like this becomes rare and powerful. Silence in its strongest form isn't the absence of speech, it's the presence of control. It's the pause that breaks patterns. It's the refusal to be baited, the calm that unsettles the loud, and the stillness that speaks when words would only dilute the truth. This isn't about withholding, it's about choosing power over performance. We'll look at how this silence becomes a personal tool, an internal compass. In a world obsessed with constant output and endless opinions, the person who knows when not to speak begins to see more clearly. Relationships shift, decisions deepen. You stop reacting and start responding. To guide us, we'll look not only at Stoic teachings, but also at the often misinterpreted mind of Machiavelli. Though remembered for cunning and manipulation, he was a student of awareness. His silence wasn't about hiding, it was about holding power. What Stoics practiced in solitude, he observed in political arenas. Restraint as a tactic, presence as leverage. This is less about history and more about rediscovering an old path of control through calm. Whether you overshare or overthink, this isn't about being quiet for the sake of it. It's about using silence with intention, learning when it builds bridges, when it draws lines, and when it simply lets things pass without owning them. Number 2, what the ancients knew about stillness. We live in a world that equates presence with performance, but the ancient world taught something radically different, that true strength often arrives quietly. Stillness wasn't avoidance, it was mastery. And the thinkers of old didn't run from noise. They outlasted it, choosing clarity over clamor. Imagine a tree standing alone in a vast field, its roots deep in the earth, unmoved by the howling wind around it. While the rest of the world rushes past in a blur, the tree remains rooted, steadfast and silent. Its stillness isn't weakness, it's strength. It holds its space with quiet authority, knowing that true power doesn't come from frantic movement, but from a calm, grounded presence. In the silence, it speaks volumes, not through words, but through its unshakable form. Picture Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus, not as detached sages, but as men forged in pressure, learning to rule themselves before ruling anything else. They knew that unchecked speech weakens your position. Every time you rush to explain, to defend, to react, you place your inner world on the table, unguarded, unfiltered, and easily manipulated. Stillness to them wasn't passive, it was protective. It meant not every emotion deserved an audience, not every challenge warranted a response. Marcus reminded himself daily, you don't have to have an opinion. That's not apathy, it's authority. The refusal to be hijacked by every disruption, every voice demanding urgency, is a form of quiet power. And while Stoicism shaped the West, the East was sculpting its own understanding. Lao Tzu spoke of alignment with the flow of life, a kind of movement rooted in non-resistance. Those who know do not speak. It's not a rule, it's a reflection. When you've made peace with yourself, you stop trying to win the room. You stop performing and start being. That kind of presence, the grounded kind, makes silence feel full, not empty. You're no longer trying to prove. You're simply occupying space with self-trust. Others feel that long before you open your mouth. Think about the relationships that truly matter, the ones where you can sit in silence without discomfort. That's not awkwardness, it's security. It's connection without effort, trust without words. Contrast that with the constant talkers, the ones who fill every gap, often not from confidence but from a fear that quiet might reveal too much. Because that's the truth. Silence reveals. It shows what's real, what's stable, what can't be faked. And when you learn to live comfortably in that space, when you stop needing to explain your every move, people notice. You become less reactive, more deliberate, less performative, more grounded. In that stillness, you find the rarest freedom, the space to hear your own voice, unpolluted by pressure or performance. And in that space, you gain the trust of others, not through volume, but through the calm that says, I'm not here to impress, I'm here to endure. In a world that thrives on noise, stillness is an act of rebellion. It's the refusal to be swept away by the currents of external expectation and the quiet confidence to stand firm in your own rhythm. The ancients understood that true mastery of life is found not in what we say or do, but in the ability to choose when and how to respond. Silence is not a void. It is a canvas on which the most profound truths are painted. And as we become more attuned to that quiet, we come to understand that the loudest actions often speak the least. In the stillness, we discover a depth of thought, clarity of purpose, and an unshakable sense of self. Qualities that can never be rushed or faked, but must be cultivated in the silence of our own hearts. Number 3, when silence becomes strategy. Imagine a chessboard where every move is calculated and every silence holds weight. The master doesn't rush to move their pieces. They wait, allowing the opponent to reveal their strategy first. In that moment of stillness, the chess player holds the advantage, their next move already planned with precision. It's not the speed of action that wins the game. It's the patience to wait for the right moment. In silence, they hold the power to control the game. Machiavelli has been misunderstood for centuries, often reduced to the image of a ruthless manipulator. But if you read The Prince with an open mind, you'll uncover a more nuanced message. It's not about cruelty, but about understanding the balance between action and inaction. Machiavelli understood that too much speech exposes too much. The more you share, the more others can use that information against you. Silence, then, isn't weakness. It's power in disguise. It's a deliberate pause, a choice to withhold and keep your cards close. In a world full of chatter, the one who speaks less can control the flow of the conversation and maintain influence. Reflect on moments in your own life. How often have you given away your power by speaking when silence would have served you better? A rushed explanation, a need to prove yourself, or a habit of speaking to fill the silence? How many times did you wish you could retract those words, realizing you'd revealed more than intended? The truth is, silence isn't something to fear. It's an opportunity for power. Picture this. You walk into a room where everyone is eager to fill the air with their voices. Instead of joining in, you observe quietly, absorbing what's happening around you. Your silence isn't empty. It's full of intent. You create a space where your words will be more powerful because they are rare and deliberate. Machiavelli knew the importance of restraint. When he said, "It is not essential to appear all good," he wasn't advocating for deception, but for control. He understood that by revealing too much, you lose the upper hand. Silence becomes a tool, a shield to protect your integrity and to ensure that your influence remains unshaken. Think back to a time when you were in a heated conversation, and in the midst of it, you chose to remain silent instead of rushing to explain yourself. In that pause, you didn't just avoid saying the wrong thing, you gave yourself space to think, to observe, and to stay in control of the situation. That silence may have felt uncomfortable in the moment, but it ended up being your strongest move, allowing you to respond with clarity and confidence, not out of impulse. In that stillness, you found the power to shape the outcome, not through words, but through your presence. In every aspect of life, silence is a strategic advantage. In negotiations, for example, those who remain calm in moments of stillness become the ones who shape the outcome. The person who can hold their silence while others rush to make concessions or justify themselves becomes the one with true leverage. In relationships, it's the same. When you stop reacting impulsively, you regain control. Your silence becomes a sign of strength, of confidence, of self-possession. Instead of being pulled in every direction by the whims of others, you choose when and how to engage. Leaders who understand this principle know the impact of measured words. The best leaders don't talk to fill space. They speak with purpose. Their words land with weight because they've been carefully chosen, and their silences are just as powerful as their speeches. Machiavelli's insight wasn't about manipulating others. It was about preserving your own power. Every word you speak is a risk, a chance for someone to gain insight into your strategy. By keeping your silence, you keep your plan safe. In today's world, we often give away our power too easily through social media, emails, or casual conversations. We feel compelled to explain ourselves, to justify our actions, to ensure we are understood. But the Stoic knows that true peace comes from not needing to be understood, only from being steadfast in who you are, no matter the external noise. So ask yourself, how often have you compromised your power by speaking too soon? How many times have you watered down your presence by over-explaining or trying to prove yourself? Machiavelli's timeless lesson is clear. Silence is not weakness. It's the foundation of true influence. A quiet command that doesn't need to be heard to be felt. In the space of silence, real power takes root. Number 4, stillness that reshapes the soul. In the constant rush of modern life, we've forgotten the power of pause. The world around us is a perpetual hum of distractions, and in the noise, it becomes easy to lose touch with who we truly are. Yet there is a quiet truth that the ancient philosophers understood. Stillness is not an absence, but a presence, a force that has the ability to reshape not just how others perceive us, but how we perceive ourselves. I remember a time when I found myself caught in a whirlwind of constant noise. Tasks, conversations, notifications, all pulling my attention in every direction. One evening I decided to step away from it all and simply be still. It wasn't meditation or focused breathing, just pure quiet. In that moment, something profound happened. The constant chatter in my mind began to fade, and I felt a deep sense of clarity, as if I was reconnecting with myself in a way I hadn't done in years. It wasn't just a break from the external world. It was a return to something more fundamental, a return to myself. That stillness reshaped my perspective, grounding me in a way that words or actions never could. Our inner faculties, attention, reflection, judgment, are constantly fractured by pings, opinions, obligations, and invisible pressures. The Stoics called this condition perturbatio, the soul shaken by external disturbances, and the antidote is silence, not as escape, but as return. A return to self-possession, to clarity, to the place where thought ceases to react and begins to observe. You don't need modern studies to confirm what the ancient sages already knew, but they exist nonetheless. 2 minutes of silence, not meditation, not focus, just pure stillness, can restore the mind's default state. Not the anxious chase of doing, but the deeper work of becoming. This state, the Stoics would say, is the seat of reason, logos, where you can reflect, discern, and align. It's no coincidence your clearest insights come not when you push, but when you pause. On a solitary walk in the calm of the early morning, or in the final quiet before sleep, when the world dims, the truth has room to surface. Yet for many, this silence is not peace, it's pressure. The moment the noise fades, the mind begins to speak, and not softly. It questions your choices, it shows you what you've ignored, It strips away the identities you perform. That's why so many avoid silence. It reveals, it demands honesty. But the Stoics would remind you, you cannot transform what you refuse to confront. And so silence, though uncomfortable at first, becomes a crucible, a place where you meet yourself unguarded, where the roles fall away, and what remains is your essence, bare and undeniable. In the realm of relationships, silence is equally profound. Imagine a moment of conflict, the kind where your pride flares and your mouth wants to strike first, but instead, you say nothing. You pause, you breathe, and in that restraint, something sacred happens. The cycle breaks. Emotion does not dictate action. Truth has room to enter. This is not passivity. It is strength guided by wisdom. The Stoics called it apatheia, not apathy, but freedom from disturbance. The ability to remain unmoved by chaos because you are rooted in principle. We often believe the most dominant voice wins the room, but true command doesn't come from volume. It comes from presence. The one who does not flinch, who does not rush, who waits with intention, this is the one others trust. Because where others react, they remain. Where others waver, they stand. This isn't arrogance, it's euthymia. The inner steadiness that comes from knowing who you are and what you value, regardless of what swirls around you. Mastering silence is not a psychological tactic. It is the beginning of temperance, the ability to hold your ground without needing to be seen, praised, or defended. And when you live from that place, something shifts. You no longer chase validation. You no longer spill your truth to be accepted. You act not from compulsion, but from conviction. You speak not to prove, but to affirm. You move not to react, but to uphold what is right. That is not self-protection. That is inner rule. Number 5, turning pain into power through silence. When was the last time you sat with your pain, not to escape it, not to explain it away, but to simply witness it in silence? No distractions, no justifications, no rush to fix it, just pure stillness, with your mind and heart fully present. Imagine sitting in a room where every part of you wants to move, to do something, anything, but instead you choose to remain still. No chatter, no excuses, just the quiet weight of your own emotions pressing in. In that moment, you realize that silence isn't the enemy of pain. It's the doorway to understanding it more fully. This kind of stillness is not easy, nor is it something we're taught. We are taught to act, to fix, to prove, but we're rarely shown how to simply be, to exist alongside our emotions without rushing to change them. And that is where true transformation begins. Not in more doing, but in the simple act of being present with what we feel. Silence doesn't demand answers. It allows space for emotions to rise, be acknowledged, and ultimately to heal. Old disappointments, quiet regrets, and the weight of past decisions begin to surface. As they rise, you don't need to solve them. You need to witness them without running from them. This is how grief transforms into wisdom, how anger becomes insight, how fractured pieces of the soul begin to reassemble. Not through action, but through observation and acceptance. In that pause, when someone disrespects you and your instinct is to react, but you don't, that is the moment of inner alchemy. You've interrupted the cycle. You've chosen response over reactivity and character over impulse. And in that space, virtue is forged. This is not detachment born of suppression. It is discipline born of depth. You do not need to suppress what you feel. You need to elevate how you respond. That is Stoic mastery. When it comes to grief, some things cannot be named. The quiet death of a dream, the ache of being unseen, the mourning of a self you never got to become. These are not things you analyze or escape. You endure them. You make space for them, and in doing so, you allow them to carve out room in your soul for something more enduring to grow. This is the slow formation of wisdom, and silence is the ground where that growth begins. This is what the Stoics meant by turning adversity into virtue, not by hardening yourself, but by transmuting suffering into strength. The silence you fear is the very soil of your return. You're not becoming someone new. You're peeling back everything that never belonged. And as that happens, you begin to live without the constant chase. You stop needing to impress, to explain, to be seen. You begin to act from what is timeless within you. This is not just the power of silence, it is its liberation. Ask yourself, in those moments of stillness, when you finally stop running, do you not find that you are already whole? The pain you've been avoiding is simply a reminder that there is more to you than the noise that surrounds you. In silence, we learn who we truly are, not defined by the world's demands, but by our ability to be present in the moment. And in that presence, we become more than what we've been told we are. This is the power you've been seeking all along, the power to simply be. Number 6, living the discipline of silence. Silence is often misunderstood as mere absence or retreat. In truth, it is a deliberate discipline, a tool for healing that doesn't require public display, leadership without grand gestures, and power without performance. But how do you incorporate this powerful discipline into daily life without retreating from the world or abandoning your humanity? The key is not to withdraw, but to show up differently. With silence, you don't disappear. You appear with intention, grounded by a calm presence that does not seek external validation. It's a form of engagement, but on your own terms, rooted in stillness. The practice of silence doesn't have to be theoretical. It's a lived experience. It becomes a philosophy in action, turning words into action and principles into practice. Start small. Begin each day in the quiet before the world demands your attention. Before you check your messages, before you let anyone else's opinions interrupt your mind, spend just 5 minutes with yourself. No distractions, no urgent tasks, just space to breathe and reset. There was a period in my life when I was constantly reacting to everything around me. The noise, the deadlines, the pressure. It felt like I was always on the move, always responding, but never fully in control. I realized that I was missing something crucial: stillness. I started setting aside just a few minutes each morning to be still before the world took hold of my day. No agenda, no rushing. Over time, those moments became a powerful reset for me, allowing me to face the day with clarity in a deeper sense of self-awareness. It wasn't just about silence. It was about reconnecting with myself before the world could pull me in all directions. This is where the true discipline lies, not in passive withdrawal, but in mindful presence. By cultivating silence in the morning, you prepare yourself to face the day with a clear mind and steady resolve. Your inner world remains undisturbed, and from this center, you engage with the outer world more effectively. As you move through the day, carry that same silence with you. When you're in a challenging conversation, don't rush to react or fill the silence. Instead, allow the stillness to create space for observation, for understanding. It's not about avoiding conflict. It's about responding from a place of grounded clarity, not emotional reactivity. Your restraint in these moments becomes a powerful form of influence. Rather than trying to dominate with words, you show strength in silence. Your ability to stay rooted and composed speaks louder than any hasty retort. In moments of conflict, silence is not weakness, it is sovereignty. It is choosing to conserve your energy and maintain control over your response. While others may exhaust themselves with noise, you stay calm, centered, and unwavering. When someone lashes out, mocks you, or throws their frustration your way, you don't owe them an immediate reaction. You owe it to yourself to remain in control of your own peace. This silent power is rooted in self-respect, a quiet refusal to let external chaos disturb your internal calm. This discipline of silence extends beyond speech. It's reflected in your environment as well. You don't need a retreat or a secluded space to practice it. You simply need a corner of your world where silence is welcome, a space to sit without distraction, a walk without noise, a journal where your thoughts are heard in solitude. This is your sanctuary, not of escape, but of return. It's where you reconnect with your values, your judgment, and your deeper self. In that space, you can find clarity that guides every decision and action you take. Number 7, when silence wounds instead of heals. Silence is often heralded as a virtue, a powerful tool for clarity, reflection, and strength. But there is another side to silence that few are willing to acknowledge. The silence that wounds rather than heals. It's the silence that turns into avoidance. The silence that shields you from facing difficult truths, and the silence that distances you from the people who need to hear your voice. We all know the feeling. When you want to say something, but you hold back. Maybe you want to confront a friend or partner about something that's bothering you, but instead you stay silent, hoping that time will fix it. Or perhaps you're in a situation where your voice could offer support, but you remain quiet, paralyzed by fear or uncertainty. That silence, though seemingly peaceful, doesn't serve you. It festers. It builds resentment, misunderstanding, and disconnection. It's not the silence of reflection or of inner peace. It's the silence of stagnation. When you silence your truth, you allow the tension to grow unchecked, and what could have been resolved with a simple conversation instead becomes a deep wound, a chasm between you and the other person. It's important to recognize that silence isn't always wise. Sometimes silence can be a defense mechanism, a way of avoiding confrontation or the vulnerability required to speak the truth. But what is avoided in silence often demands to be addressed later, and when it finally emerges, it's often more painful than if you had simply spoken up when the time was right. Consider the impact of unspoken words in relationships. When we choose silence in the face of conflict, we rob the relationship of the chance to heal. Unspoken frustrations and unaddressed feelings don't vanish. They accumulate, often leading to passive-aggressive behaviors or a growing emotional distance. Silence becomes a silent killer in relationships, eroding trust and connection rather than strengthening them. This is not to say that every thought needs to be spoken, but silence should be used with intention. The silence that heals is the one that arises from clarity, where you choose not to engage out of emotional reactivity, but rather from a place of deep reflection. On the other hand, silence that wounds is the one that arises from fear, pride, or unwillingness to engage in difficult but necessary conversations. In your own life, think about the moments when you've stayed silent, when you should have spoken. How often did silence make things better, and how often did it leave the problem unresolved? There's wisdom in knowing when silence is the right choice, but there's also wisdom in knowing when to break it and allow your voice to heal rather than harm. True healing begins with honest dialogue. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is speak up, not to defend, not to attack, but to express what's true for you. Silence, when used appropriately, can be a tool of peace. But silence used to avoid, suppress, or withhold truth only leads to inner turmoil and emotional disconnection. So remember this: silence isn't always golden. Sometimes the healing begins only when you find the courage to speak, even when it feels uncomfortable. The silence that hurts is often the silence that avoids the very thing you need to confront. And until you break that silence, the wound will remain. And there you have it, the hidden power of silence, as seen through the wisdom of Machiavelli and the Stoics. It's not just about avoiding noise or staying quiet. It's about cultivating presence, control, and inner strength in a world that often pushes us to react impulsively. As we've seen, silence isn't a retreat. It's a powerful strategy, a tool for reflection, and a way to navigate life with purpose. Whether you're leading, negotiating, or simply seeking peace, mastering the art of silence can transform your approach to every situation. It's the ability to hold your ground without the need to fill every space with words. So the next time you face tension, conflict, or uncertainty, remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is choose to be still, to observe, and to respond from a place of clarity. Thanks for watching. Until next time, embrace the power of silence.